This is a Hot Pie Media original.
Hello, and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards. Are you ready to have your mind blown today? I'm always ready to have my mind blown. And today, we so deliver. I have been so excited about this guest. It's Kelsey Yeager, and she has a website and a TikTok and an Instagram called On My Way to Happiness. And she is a manifestation coach and manifestation scientist. So if you're ready to get some scientific backing to why affirmations work, which is basically the gist of it, but it's so much more than that. I mean, she's going to blow your mind with quantum particle theory, and I'm going to butcher this because I'm not a scientist. But anyway, she's going to blow your mind over and over today. And I feel like we just scratched the surface. And I am so excited. It is incredible. Yay. So excited that you're here. I am utterly grateful to be sitting in this chair, talking with you and sharing things that are going to make our lives better, things that are going to take us to the next level, things that are going to show us more about the universe, about our own nature, about where we're going, and about how to be happy right now, even while we're getting better. So that is what this show's all about, using my voice to uplift yours and all of us together rising higher. Kelsey Yeager, of course, is our guest today. I am so stoked. Little bit of business up top. I am building my newsletter subscription list. So I would love it if you would join. I have something motivational every single Monday, a little Monday shine for you, comes out every Monday morning. So please join. Plus, I keep you up to date on what's going on with the show and how you can find the totally awesome guests that we have. So you can join Amy at amyedwards.com. Oops, that's my email, Amy at amyedwards.com. You can email me if you want to, but just go to amyedwards.com and you can sign up for the newsletter there. Also, we are building reviews too on Apple Podcasts, and I have a contest coming up today with Amanda Nelson of Exploring Amanda, who has been on the show. So I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. Let's get to the show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Let's Get Checked and the Pcos test. So PCOS is a hormone problem that interferes with women's reproductive systems. I hadn't even heard of it until I did my test. It's the most common hormonal disorder among women of reproductive age, and it can lead to weight gain and obesity, and millions of women have this, and 75% of women, it's estimated, remain undiagnosed of PCOS. So if you're experiencing some symptoms like having trouble losing weight, maybe some acne, maybe mood disorders, consider trying a PCOS test from our video sponsor, Let's Get Checked. They are a leader in home testing. You go to the site, order the test kit, which I'm going to give you a discount code for 30% off, and you order their small package, and then you do a finger prick and spit sample, send it back. It's prepaid shipping. It's quite easy to do. And in 2 to 5 days, you're going to get your results completely online. I am waiting on my results right now because I did it. So I'm pretty excited. A nurse will then contact you for a consultation over the phone. It's all included. It's affordable, confidential, and you can do it all from home. So their labs are CLIA approved and CAP accredited, which are the highest levels of accreditation. Yeah. In case you don't know what those are, because I don't, but I do know they're good. So it's also HIPAA compliant, which means that your data is safe and not shared with anyone. So if you don't know where you are, you can't get better. So try it this year with Let's Get Checked. Check your levels, get 30% off at TryLGC. That's Let's Get Checked. TryLGC.com/Amy, AMY. Use code Amy30 for 30% off your entire order at trylgc.com/Amy. Oh, I'm so excited. I am. I'm so excited. Kelsey is so interesting. So interesting. So I'm just very stoked to share this interview today. She's a total badass. Remember, she's at On My Way to Happiness. I'll have all those links in the show notes, and we'll talk about them later too at the end of this and at the end of the interview. So, what do I want to get into today? Well, we have a contest that I'm so excited to talk about. So let's just talk about that up top really quick before I get into my message today. So we're going to give away one of these journals called 60 Days Away from Amanda Nelson. She has Exploring Amanda. She is a travel blogger and motivational speaker. She is a total badass, has been on this show. I absolutely loved our episode together. It was mid-year last year, so I will put a link to that also in the show notes, and you can listen to her message, but she just has tons of uplifting motivational content all the time. She is gorgeous inside and out, and she is all about lifting up others' voices. And just like I am here, we're very aligned on that. Like, we want to use our voice to help other people, keep getting higher and better and all the time. And so anyway, she put out a journal called 60 Days Away, which I ordered right away because I was like, I want to support what she's doing. And plus, this sounds cool because it's called Becoming Your Highest Self in 60 Days. Well, it sold out within a month, and now she's doing another run of it. And we are going to give one away. And all you have to do to win is enter by writing a review in Apple Podcasts. That's it. So write a review. We're going to draw a name on Valentine's Day and release the winner. So I'm very excited. Simple as that. Hit 5 stars, please. And write a review. It doesn't even have to be a long review, just a quick review. And then you will be entered to win Amanda's journal, 60 Days Away. And it's really cool. So she has a lot in here about how she views journaling and how important it is to her process of manifestation, which is interesting because Kelsey and I talk a little bit about this today too. And journaling is a big part of what I do as well. It's on my daily habit list. I do it every single day, just about. I take a few days off every now and then, but overall I do try to write every single day and stay aligned with, my vision and what I'm working toward. And she's got little prompts in here that are really cool. I'm holding it up if you're watching on YouTube. And you can set an intention every day. She has a space of infinite possibility, which I like that, especially with what we're talking about with Kelsey today. That completely aligns. A space for gratitude, a to-do space, list 5 things as if they've already happened. Like, it's really cool because she has all these for every single day. And then in between, she's got some breakdowns at the end of the week where you can reflect on how your week went and you can write something memorable about every day. So it's a really simple and useful tool for manifestation, for growing, and for setting some goals. So I've been excited to use that, and I'm so excited to give that away. So thank you to Amanda. Please be sure and follow her too at Exploring Amanda, and just simply write a review. So thank you to her for giving us that to give away. I am very excited about that. And she has new covers for them too that are going to be beautiful. So, hi. I want to talk for a moment about something that came up for me today before we get to talking to Kelsey Yeager on my way to happiness, a manifesting scientist. I'm just, so stoked about this conversation today. So what came up for me, I didn't even really make any notes about this today. It's just something that was on my mind, just how much we rely on numbers to define ourselves and how that can be really tough on us. We look at them in so many ways, from the salary that we make to the followers that we have, the downloads we get, how many people are liking this, how many people are seeing this, how much money am I making at it. And I think that I just want to remind you that you are not the numbers. You are not defined by the numbers that you may see. They're just part of this road, right? Kelsey talks about on the road to happiness, and we talk a little bit at the end about what that means in the journey. So what? It doesn't matter what the numbers are. And I want you to just consider that your reminder today. And that was my intention today too, just to let go. I'm going to light my Palo Santo because I didn't even tap into my intention today yet with the show, but that is it, just to let go and allow. And Kelsey talks about that today too. She talks about letting go of control and not worrying so much about, hey, why didn't this go viral? Hey, why didn't this take off? Hey, why aren't more people seeing this? Well, we don't know what things are going to be like down the road. This could be part of your story. I remember I follow Angie Lee. Do you follow her? She's funny and cute and does motivation talks and things like that. And she had a video up where she was talking about her first time she put on an event. And, basically like 2 people showed up. And that's part of your story because now she has a lot of people engaged with her following and can put on an event and have a lot of people come. And she's able to say, hey, keep going because this feeds your story. Coot Blackson was on the show. He said the same thing. One of his first events had 2 people show up. And he was like, well, should we just call it off? And they were like, no, we're here for this. And he's right. This is part of your story. What are you going to give to those that are engaged? What are you going to give to those numbers that you've got? Are you saying thank you for those? And that doesn't mean you're negating any growth. It just means that you're able to be grateful for the part of your story that you're in now and understand it's a bigger bit of the entire whole. Whole, W-H-O-L-E. And your numbers don't define who you are. So remember that, no matter what. Let go. Because ultimately, we don't really have control over that anyway, right? So just let go. Keep doing what lights you up. And that's what we talk about with Kelsey today. So let's get into that for a second. Kelsey Yeager, I found her on TikTok. She has a TikTok called On My Way to Happiness. That's also the name of her website and her YouTube. And it has a couple underscores in it, but it's also her Instagram. I highly recommend her TikTok because it is so much fun to listen to. She will blow your mind over and over and make you think about all the things that we think of as reality. She has a degree in chemical engineering, so she has studied science her entire life. And then she's had a business of manifestation coaching for over 4 years that she has continued to build and evolve and grow and become successful with. Her TikTok has well over 120,000 followers, and she is constantly sharing her message about the universe and about how quantum physics supports manifestation. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope I did a good job of explaining that because if you're anything like me, you only sort of grasp all these big concepts. I majored in philosophy. I'm interested in these bigger picture things of how things work, what is really going on. And so I appreciate so much that what Kelsey talks about, and with her scientific training, she's able to say, hey, what science is doing actually fits with manifestation. Those go together. It supports what everyone's talking about the positive thoughts that you're putting out, because those are actual electrons, which we're going to talk about today. I know, which I haven't really thought about either. Those are actual electrons that you're putting out. I mean, I know that there's energy, but I guess I just didn't really think about actual electrons being put out there. So anyway, we're going to get into all that and more, and theories about God, about past lives, about the universe, the matrix, all of it. It's so good. Huge, huge thanks to Kelsey for showing up today the way that she did and spending her time here to share her message, because I absolutely loved it. I would love to have her back on anytime and get deeper into this stuff because it is like my jam, big time. Remember that you can find her at On My Way to Happiness anywhere that you find stuff. So probably her website is an easy place to start, or her TikTok. So anyway, let's get to today's interview. Stick around to the end. I'm going to recap about the contest and today's affirmation. So let's get to it with Kelsey Yeager, On My Way to Happiness. Kelsey Yeager, I am so happy to meet you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this.
I am too. I think I want to start with you about just how you got started and what you do. And your title, you call yourself a manifestation scientist, essentially?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And a quantum expert, I would say?
That's me, exactly. So I got started I mean, I was very much not into manifestation and I was very much into science. And, my whole life, like my parents were very logical. I had no connection to spirituality or religion or anything at all that wasn't logical, see it to believe it. I was taught, everything you learn is in schools, go to college, get good grades, like just a very, very practical lifestyle.
You were not raised religiously at all? Like no religious upbringing or anything like that? Wow.
It wasn't until I went to high school. Well, there was one time in third grade, my parents did try to take me to church, but me and my brother cried the whole time. And they're like, never mind. And they only took us to church because they felt like, I think like, they're like, oh, maybe that's a thing like parents should do. Maybe we should try that. And they're like, never mind, too hard. And then, in high school, I started to go to church because my friends did that. I was looking for a connection to anything, but, I went to like just a non-denominational Christian church. And I feel like I liked it, but I didn't really find what I was looking for. And I did find what I was looking for much more in science. I was very logical. I majored in chemical engineering. I loved what science was telling me. I felt like science had all the answers, religion had none. And then in college, I went through a really hard breakup with my boyfriend at the time. I was so devastated. I was like hysterical every single day. And the only way I could get myself to like not cry on the way to class or fall asleep at night was through meditating. I didn't even really know what I was doing. I just knew I was like being silent and focusing on my breath. I didn't know at all. And then, in my adult life, I started connecting the dots and I was like, wait, all that quantum stuff that I learned in school, that's actually the same stuff that I'm doing now in my like manifesting life. Like, wait, that thing we learned about how quantum entanglement and particles actually interact with each other and stay entangled forever. Isn't that what the law of attraction is saying? Like you think about something and then it appears in your life. And I started making all these connections. And then ever since then, I've been on such a deep dive, like so hungry to figure out like all the mysteries of the universe and combine science with manifestation. I feel like so many times, manifesting is seen as so woo-woo or science is seen as too hard and complicated. And I'm like, no, I think these are saying the same exact things. We just need to bridge that gap.
I agree. And I love the way that you're bridging that gap. That is like, I am way, way into this because the more I've studied about it, which is not even close to what you have. So like some of your concepts, I may ask you to sort of like go slow on. But I, have read enough about how quantum particles behave and it's absolutely mind-boggling. Like it's hard for my brain to even understand that is a possibility of how they could behave. So when you say quantum entanglement, I don't even know what you're talking about there. So might as well go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to dive in.
Is it? Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah. Quantum mechanics is really difficult because the quantum world is the opposite of everything that is intuitive to us. We know a wall is a wall, this couch is a couch, but the quantum world is the complete opposite. And it's saying, no, at the quantum level, everything we know falls apart. Everything that we know to be true about our current reality, that things are solid and things are empty space, is not true. On the quantum level, everything is just electrons, protons, particles even smaller than that. There's no difference per se in what everything is. We know that matter is actually a lot of empty space. I know I'm getting on like a train, but
no, I'm ready for that train. I'm ready for that train.
I feel like this is where we need to start.
Yes,
yeah. So
it is.
An atom is like basically empty space. It's like 99.99999% empty space. It's basically, you think of an atom and there's a nucleus and around the nucleus is an electron cloud. But in the electron cloud, it's like, it's just a few electrons kind of floating around in a cloud. That's not perfect. Scientists might be like, no, that's not it, but it's close enough. It paints a picture of what is happening. And inside, the nucleus is, if the atom was a football field, the nucleus would be like a pea in the middle of a football field.
That's
like
insane.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So insane. Everything is empty space and everything's made of atoms and atoms are that much empty space. And so everything as we know it on the quantum level is basically just empty space.
Right. Right. Which is already mind blowing to me. Like I've studied that. I understand that conceptually, but then I look at my computer and I knock on it and I look at this microphone and I'm like, but here it is. This is not empty space, so.
Right. Yeah. So, how is that possible? Right. I think it's Albert Einstein who says like reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And it's very hard to break out like how I get it, but how is it working in my everyday life?
Yes. So what about quantum entanglement then? Like what?
Yes. So quantum entanglement is another thing that Einstein was very confused about. He got it on a science level, on the calculation level, but when it came to perceiving reality, it was really difficult for him. And he actually called quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance, because what quantum entanglement is when two quantum particles, I just say electrons, because that's, we all kind of have like some perception of what an electron is. So when two quantum particles interact, when they meet up, when they, overlap with each other, they touch, what happens is they exchange complete information with each other. They imprint information on each other completely. And then what happens is when those electrons or those quantum particles, they can go anywhere in the whole universe. They can be billions of light years apart, and they will interact instantaneously to each other. So in electrons, we measure it in spin. So it's like if one electron points up, the other one instantaneously points down, almost as if they're communicating with each other, which is crazy. How can that work?
I don't know. How can that work?
A lot of deep dive into scientific calculations is how it works, but it's been proven. We've seen it. Scientists have measured this. Obviously, they can't measure billions of light years away, but they've measured it that electrons are always stay entangled with each other. And what I believe to be true, although scientists, this is where things get interesting, because science proves things and then the calculations say one thing, but I think us as humans need to take a step back and say, okay, but what does this mean for our life? What does this mean for our universe? So the reason that I think quantum entanglement is so powerful is because what I think another thing scientists have discovered is something called the 0-point field. Okay. And the 0-point field is basically like the fabric of reality. So we've seen this, in other spiritual texts, in like ancient cultures, religions, just in general speak, we talk about like a fabric of reality. There's something connecting us. We're all connected. We're all like, we're not separate entities. And in science, there's something called a 0-point field. And it is all these quantum particles. So if we know everything's made of atoms, and atoms are made of electrons and, even smaller particles than that, and they're all interacting all of the time. All of the atoms are moving, everything's interacting. These cause fluctuations in the quantum field. So if we know there's, our table, our couch, our walls, whatever, are made of like billions and billions and billions of electrons, and all of the electrons are moving around in their little clouds. And so the electrons are constantly moving like back and forth. And when we calculate classical physics, things like gravity or force or acceleration or velocity, we can kind of ignore these little fluctuations, because at the end of the day, the majority of the electrons inside of the couch are going to all move at the same time, right? If you push the couch, you use a certain amount of force, but all the electrons are actually moving. We cannot calculate how every single electron in that couch is moving. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And these little fluctuations are what cause the 0-point field. There's actually tons of energy that's happening that scientists just discount, because if an electron is moving up and down, up and down, up and down, they're rubbing against each other. Basically, the movement cancels out. Yeah. If you're just trying to guess like where they are, you would just use the average approximation, because you don't need the up and down if they're always going to be here. However, you can't just discount it forever, because that is creating some kind of energy, especially when everything, as we know it, is made of billions and billions of these. I mean, all of that energy has to mean something. It can't just be discounted all of the time. And this is 0-point energy. And when you think about
0-point, meaning it's energy that's happening, that's actually, we're not calculating because it's zeroing itself out, but it's still energy. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So when we want to figure out like
success, but I grasp that.
You got it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but it's still energy. It's still happening. And scientists don't know what to do with it. And now that there's kind of more information and more people trying to figure this out. And, ever since quantum physics existed, these are questions that are occurring. And some scientists postulate, oh, well, maybe there is a fabric of reality. And maybe all of this energy is creating a field, a force field, like a force field of energy that not controls our reality, but is our reality. As if like it's almost, I don't want to say it's like the air because that's inaccurate, but it's like me and this wall are connected via this medium, which is the air. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Only instead of air, it is a whole quantum field. Are we on the same page?
I think when you say fabric too, you tend to think of something kind of flat, but I get the sense that this fabric is more dimensional or something. Would that be correct?
Yeah, for sure. It's like if we were all underwater, it would be like the ocean.
Okay. All right. That's a good analogy. So it's all everywhere. Yeah.
It's all everywhere and all everywhere in all of the universe. So it connects us to all the other galaxies that we know of and that we don't know of and whatever else is at the ends of the universe, literally everything.
Well, so what do you think? What does that mean? I mean, if there is this fabric of the universe, what does that mean?
For sure. So this is where things get exciting.
Okay.
Quantum entanglement. Yeah. I'm like quantum entanglement is saying, okay, when quantum particles interact with each other, they imprint all information, all of each other's information, and they remember it forever and they communicate forever. Okay. But
that's the fact that they have a memory and can remember everything forever and have this imprint on this. Well, one thing that always gets me, I'm just a little sidebar here, is infinite smallness. It's easy to think about infinite bigness, but when I go the other direction and think about infinite smallness, that always just blows my mind because I'm like, oh yeah, like you can cut that in half and you can cut that in half and you can cut that in half. So just keep going, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just an
aside. Oh my God. I used to have nightmares about like, when you put your hair in a ponytail, but you keep having to like twist the ponytail.
Yeah.
I would literally have nightmares where I keep having to like
twist
tighten my ponytail. Yeah. Like with that same concept, like infinite smallness.
That's your science, like spilling into your hairdo.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we're talking about them imprinting on each other. Yes. And so keep going.
So electrons imprint. Yay, good. Mm-hmm. But also the 0 point field is made of all electrons interacting with all electrons of all time, all together in all of the universe. So what that could mean is we have access. We are made of electrons. We are quantum fields too. So we have access to all electrons of all time. We can imprint with any other electrons that we want to.
And that's manifestation right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We know our thoughts send out electrical impulses, right? We know our thoughts, we can measure that. Doctors measure it, scientists measure it. Okay. So if our thoughts can send out an electrical impulse, and electrical impulse is made of electrons, we can imprint with the other electrons in the 0 point field with the result that we desire. And we can bring that into our lives.
An electrical impulse is made of electrons? Is that a dumb question? I mean, an electrical impulse is made of electrons. Because I was going to ask you about our consciousness. Like, where does our consciousness fall in all this?
Oh, yeah. Consciousness is like so debated. But yeah, our thoughts are electrical impulses. Mm-hmm. Electricity is just the movement of electrons, basically. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's how we measure it. So exactly. Everything is all one. We are so connected.
When we talk about spending our energy, we're literally like expending electrons?
Literally, yes.
I mean, that's pretty intense because I think about where we're spending our energy. We say that, but you don't think about it in a tangible, hey, I'm using some electrons right now. Like, these are my valuable electrons. And so where am I sending them? Which gets us into manifestation and affirmations and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, is this God, do you think? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think so. I think science provides other words, other languages to describe all of the same stuff. So people say God, people say the universe, people say all that is the creation source, source energy, all those kinds of words. And I think the 0 point field is saying that exact same thing. It is the source of all energy. It is the source of consciousness. It is the source of everything that we know to be true is in this 0 point field. And I believe it is just a scientific and logical way to get to the same conclusions that people have been intuitively knowing for years and years and years.
So do you tap into source, like when you meditate and stuff like that? How does it affect you, like in this sort of like spiritual aspect of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, the practices are the same. I don't do anything. I don't like hook myself up to like, wires and all this.
Wouldn't you kind of like to though?
I have very much wanted to do so many tests on myself. Yes. But
you're young. It's still coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one day, maybe I'll have to come back in years and be like, okay, here's my discoveries. This is what I literally found in my own lab. No, when I want to meditate, when I manifest, when I visualize all that stuff, I do the same practices that you would think to do. Just connect to myself, connect to source, get quiet, focus on my breath, do all the practices that we know to do in like a more spiritual sense. The scientific language helps me because I know it's true, because I grew up with such a like practical mindset, like you can't believe it till you see it. Like, it's only real if it's proven, because that's how I grew up and viewed the world for so long. When I first heard about manifestation from spiritual gurus, I wanted to believe it so bad. I really did. I heard people say, oh, you think about stuff and it poofs up. That's what I thought they were saying. I know there's much more to it, but I was like, well, that sounds great. I mean, I would love to just think about money and it appears or whatever. I'm like, okay. I want that to be true, but it's definitely not true, right? I mean, how could that be possible? And that led me on this journey. And the science for me helps me know. I mean, in manifestation, your belief that you can have the thing is the most important aspect of attracting the life you want. And I always had doubts within myself when I tried manifesting at first, and I saw some things come true for me. And I'm like, okay. That was weird. I don't know how that happened. I don't know. But I still had so many doubts, like, but how can this be true? And the science for me proved, oh, that's how it's true. It's literally true. So now when I go to manifest, like, I don't have all those doubts, like, am I connecting to source? I'm like, no, scientifically, I'm literally connecting to source, because I am a quantum being made of electrons. And so is everything that I ever want. At the core of everything we are and everything we desire and everything of all time, we are all made of the same material. And quite literally, we are proven to be made of the same material on a quantum level. So there's no reason, if being rich is a certain frequency and being poor is a different frequency, there's no meaning to either. I can tap into either one I want.
I love that. Like, it's not judging. And I'm a big proponent. I believe that too. I think I have two questions here. How have you seen this take hold in your life? What have you seen actually tangibly with results in manifestate? I mean, whatever you want to manifest. And what do you do to really stay directional in the vibration that you want to stay in, or the quantum, field you want to stay in, rich, not poor, or whatever it is?
Yeah, totally. So I feel like my business is one of the biggest ways that I've seen so much change in my life. And, running a business, my experience was I wanted to start my own business. So I'm Googling everything. I hired coaches. I did the whole thing. I started a website. I had a blog for a while. Technically I still have it. I don't post there that much though. I learned SEO. I learned keywords. I learned all this stuff. I learned from a lot of coaches who taught me, oh, this is step 1. This is step 2. You have to post every day. You have to use these hashtags, post at this time of day. And it was very helpful and it got me to where I needed to be. But then there became a point where I realized all the rules are fake. Are there any successful business owners who don't use that particular hashtag? Yeah. Okay. Should I really waste all my time worrying about what time to send out this post, or should I just post it? And I began to realize oh wait, nothing matters. I can be successful no matter what, because everything is just a frequency. Everything is just an outcome. So one way that I helped manifest these changes into my life was realizing everything is just nothing. Everything is just electrons. I get to have the exact reality I desire, and I don't have to follow any of these rules. I just have to follow what excites me. I feel that current in my body. I feel that electricity. I feel lit up. Why do you think we use those words? It's because that is what is happening. Isn't that so funny that the words that the spiritual people use are the same words that the scientists are using to describe electricity? Because we are literally lighting ourselves up. And when I feel those feelings in my body, and I feel lit up by studying these concepts, and I definitely have felt self-conscious about sounding like a crazy person, and you guys listening might be like, maybe you are. And maybe I am. And that's true. But it lights me up and it makes me feel excited to play around with these ideas and connect the dots and learn about spirituality and science. And I realized when I'm lit up by this, and the first times in my business, I started posting about this and being like, hey, I think you can manifest, I think the whole universe is made of electrons, and you can manifest by just thinking about the electrons you want. And it's like, what are you talking about? But it lit me up, and somehow people are connecting to that message. Sometimes I go back to my own posts, especially the first ones, and I'm like, that made no sense. I don't know why. I don't know what people connected to, but they did. And it's because they can feel that energy too. And I firmly believe in my business, I have made much more money every single time I followed my light, the electricity, the spark within myself, even if it made no logical sense, versus when I followed the human-made rules of, oh, post at this time and do this in your launch and blah, 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 blah. That almost never brought as much money as when I just followed my light and hoped everything worked out, and it always does.
It's kind of like what you were saying, it doesn't matter the right way, the wrong way. I'm always talking about this on this show too. It's like, there's not a right way and a wrong way. There's just a way. And the universe isn't judging. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. And I think partly why people resonate with your videos is just, there's a human nature to search for answers, and to understand, even when we probably aren't going to understand what dark matter is in the universe, but we're trying, I think it's this thirst for well, that sounds cool. Maybe I'm going to understand the nature of the universe, which, that's what's interested me my whole life. Just trying to understand it, and you too, I can tell. Yeah. What setbacks do you experience? Do you experience some, limiting thoughts, negative thoughts? How does that affect you? And do you just return to that connection? What do you do during those setbacks? What are they like for you? Or if you have them?
For sure. Yeah. It's when I started posting on TikTok about everything I was excited about. I have been on TikTok long enough to understand how it works. There's all kinds of people, and that's why it's so fun. But it also was very difficult for me when, if I post about quantum physics, and I've made it very clear on my page, I majored in chemical engineering. I have a background. I study these books. Here's courses I've taken. I make it clear what I know. And I'm also very clear about what I don't know. I'm not a particle physicist. I don't work in a lab every day. I'm not, I'm just trying to piece these ideas together and explore ideas. And this is science as it makes sense to me. And one setback that I began to realize was Scientists hate that. The whole science community hates it. If anyone who is a physicist or has ever taken a physics class is like, that's not how it is. And I'm like, no, I know. And I would begin to get exhausted discussing these ideas with these people because I keep saying, no, the science is real. All of the science I'm saying is real. At the end of the day, when I conclude, oh, and this kind of makes sense to me because manifestation is kind of saying the same thing, you cannot believe that part. And that's fine. I get the science mindset of, it has to be proven 1 million times in a million different labs and be published in different academic journals. I get that mindset truly. So if you're not on board with manifestation, I was there and that's fine. But the science is real. So when people comment stuff like, this doesn't make any sense, you're stupid, blah, 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 blah. Like, I've been in the game long enough to know whatever, they're a hater, ignore them. But at the same time, when there's thousands of people commenting that because your video went viral, it is so exhausting. And I began to get in my head every time, I would go to post and I would like fact check a million times and be like, is this right? And then there would still be haters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what can I do to make all these people happy? And so I just had to take a break. I had to step back. I had to remind myself those people are crazy. And what I began to do was I know that people are connecting to this message. For every negative comment, I would get tons of positive comments. People were relating to something here. And I knew I had to keep going. So when these people would say this stuff, like, yeah, when thousands of people are saying, and they all say, I'm a physicist, so I know. And I'm like, yeah, okay, so I know.
Thousands of physicists spending time on TikTok.
Exactly. I'm like, why are you even watching my video where I'm clearly like, this proves manifestation? Like, just don't watch it. If you don't want to know about manifestation, don't watch it. If you know you're going to get triggered, don't watch it. But what I began to do is I got so many positive comments also. And I began to really, really, really get intentional about saving those and paying attention to those. I would screenshot the ones that like really hit home, screenshot my DMs, like, save these and look at these all of the time. And I would just generate that positive energy because that I knew that's what's gotten me here. That's what's gotten me everything that I love in my life is following what feels good and following that spark. And so every time I focused on all of these people saying like, whoa, this is like so interesting. And like, yeah, I just love it. I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. I'm not crazy. Something is interesting. Something is connecting. We can explore these ideas. And if other people don't want to participate, that's fine. And so I guess for me, it's really like quite literally taking screenshots and putting them in a folder on my phone. And anytime I began to feel dragged down to a, lower vibration, I would just look back at this folder and be like, no, and like reground myself.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Within that, I want to talk about one thing. When you talked about, science people pointing things out or whatever they want to say. What about, those scientific experiments? You're going to be able to say this way better than me. So let me butcher it and then you clean it up. What about the science experiments that they've done where outcome is affected by observance? Yeah. Because you can do science experiments all day long, but if from a quantum perspective, the outcome is affected by our observance, which you can talk about, then it's proving your point.
I agree. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So this is, I'll explain my perspective and my biggest like complaint from other people, I guess, and why that makes no sense to me. But, there's the observer effect in all of science, but especially in the particle wave duality in the double slit experiment.
Yes.
Which I had a TikTok about that.
That's what I'm talking about. The double slit. Yes.
Yeah. So the double slit experiment basically had two conclusions. So what happened was scientists shot electrons through this double slit wall, and it looks like a wall, but there's like, as if an equal sign was like punched out of it, two empty slits. And these electrons went through the slits. And what scientists found was when they weren't looking at all, and then they looked back later, the wall behind that was like splattered with electrons everywhere. Again, it wasn't totally like that. It was a light refractive pattern, but I know most people don't know what that looks like. So it's basically just pretend
Perfect.
someone just sprayed a bunch of paint, whatever. So the scientists were like, oh, that's so interesting. I wonder which electron led to which particle on the other side. How did the electrons make that pattern? That's so interesting. There's that refractive pattern. Let's watch the electrons and see how they did that. And so when scientists watched the electrons go through that first wall, they watched the electrons, okay, but then on that second wall, there was a completely different pattern. And it was like the equal sign. The difference would be like, if you shone a flashlight just like on the wall, it's light everywhere. But if you threw like paint, like literal paint through an equal sign stencil, that's what they saw on the wall the second time. So they saw, like the two lines. Again, I'm smoothing over some details for the sake of being able to paint that visually for people without too much of a scientific background.
Cool.
But this experiment had two conclusions. One, that electrons are both waves and particles, because the light refractive pattern where you could, the electrons were everywhere on the second wall, that indicated an electron acted as a wave. And then when they saw the equal sign, it indicated electrons acted as a particle. The second conclusion, which is what we're here to discuss in this moment, is it's so interesting that the electrons acted differently just because the scientists were watching it. Scientists watched the electrons, and the electrons appeared to create a different pattern on the second wall. And there was nothing else different in the entire experiment except the act of observation. And what scientists concluded was, so when electrons act as a wave or any quantum particle, it basically means that they could be anywhere. A wave is like a probability. So in their wave function, it means they could be anywhere on the wall. It doesn't matter. They're a wave function, probability. When the scientists looked at the wave function, what they concluded was they collapsed the wave function. So instead of a complete probability, the electron collapsed into its one spot on the equal sign. And it almost seems like the act of observation changed the electron from having all these potentials into just one reality. And when you pull that back on like a macro scale, like the world we live in, doesn't it seem like, oh, then the world we live in, it could be anything. There could be infinite possibilities until we observe it. And then it collapses into just one reality. So you could live in a situation where, you get the job and you don't get the job, and both possibilities exist until you open your letter of acceptance or rejection or whatever, and then you collapse it into that reality. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Cool.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So what scientists say, or what people comment a lot on my videos, is they say, well, this doesn't make any sense because through the act of observation, you change the system. And this is true. They are right about this. So if you wanted to measure temperature, for example, of like water in a bathtub. So if you had some water in a bathtub and you had you can only measure that temperature by putting a thermometer in the bathtub, right? But by the act of putting the thermometer in the bathtub, you are technically changing the temperature of the bathtub. It's on a minuscule scale, but on some level, you are changing, especially the water specifically around the thermometer. On some level, you're changing some degree of the bathtub. Because the bath water is so big and the thermometer is so small, you'll probably get a pretty accurate reading of the temperature, and we don't need to worry about that in our world as we know it. But on the quantum scale, if you're measuring one electron, you measure it via measuring device, and the measuring device operates by shooting a photon at it. So if you have one electron and then one photon hits the electron, it's like, okay, well, a whole bathtub, a bathtub isn't going to be affected by a photon, but one electron might be. And there's an inherent measurement problem within the experiment. And that's a valid concern. So I get that logic. But my question is, I agree. So what these scientists are then saying is that the measurement device affects the system, right? The measurement device, by observing it, is changing the system by looking at it. But the conclusions that I make are, well, this says that we observe our reality. Our reality is complete potential until we observe it. And the scientists and the naysayers, their argument is, yeah, but the observation changes the system. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's exactly what I'm saying. I agree. I don't understand how you think that's saying something different than what I'm saying. I think that's my biggest, yeah. We're on the same page.
Absolutely. That's what we're saying. Your observation changes it, has the potential to change it, and does.
Exactly.
Yes. That's really cool.
I think another aspect of it is it's just hard to imagine in our world. It's so hard to imagine that this couch could be anything but a couch and these walls could be anything but walls. But that's the whole nature of quantum mechanics, is it operates so differently than all of our instincts. We are meant to be these, 3D humans operating in our 3D world. So anytime we think about a different kind of world, of course it's going to seem crazy. It does. Yeah, it seems wild. And it's so hard to wrap our heads around, but it doesn't mean that there isn't an answer. And it doesn't mean there's a different set of rules for, us in the regular world and the quantum world. There might be sort of different rules, but they have to connect somehow. We know we are made of the quantum stuff. So there has to be some kind of connection. And I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, no, this is a quantum experiment. The measurements, they're different. And it's like, no, but they're not totally different. There has to be a connection here.
It would apply to everything. It would literally everything. If everything's made up these particles. Have you heard of Keen? Keen provides access to vetted psychics and spiritual advisors who provide guidance and insight on life's challenges, clarity in love, relationship, career, and more. They even have Akashic record readers, which I have been interested in. Keen is also one of the most affordable ways to get an instant psychic reading by a professional at any time, 24/7. So I have tried it once too, and it was really interesting. It happened really fast, and I feel like I didn't have enough questions prepared. So, they want to know what you want to know, and you can tap in with a question, like I said, anytime, day or night. So as a new Keen customer, you get your first 10 minutes for just $1.99. Pricing then depends on which advisor you choose. They all have different rates, and the services are backed with a satisfaction guarantee. It's a very affordable way to meet new advisors. And when you find the right one, you can develop an ongoing relationship that can lead to all sorts of benefits like monthly intention setting, chakra clearing, and more. So simply go to trykeen.com/Amy Edwards, and that link will allow you your first 10 minutes for $1.99. Again, that's trykeen.com/Amy Edwards. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, that's HELP.com, is ready to assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist securely online. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It is professional therapy done right, because you can switch therapists anytime you need if you don't find that therapist to be a match for you. They are committed to finding good therapeutic matches for people to really help them make their lives better. You can log in anytime. It's available worldwide, and it is even more affordable than traditional offline therapy. Financial aid is also available because they want you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website, read their testimonials. They're posted all the time. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/reviews. Then go to betterhelp.com/AES for Amy Edwards Show and get 10% off your first month. That's right. Take charge of your mental health with the help of an experienced professional and BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/AES for 10% off your first month. So this is going to be a dumb question. I know it. How come we can't walk through walls and stuff?
That is an interesting question, because I don't know that one day we can't, to sound totally
really
in the future. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking. I was like, I know it's a wild question, but I don't know. Maybe David Blaine has something figured out that we don't.
Yeah. So one day I think we might literally be able to, but I think a different way to think about this comparison between the quantum world and the real world is like, okay, the game like The Sims or any video game, but I spent a lot of hours playing The Sims, so I'm familiar with that one.
Okay.
But so in The Sims or any video game, like your sim can travel. So like in our world, the way we think of our world, I live pretty close to my gym. So I think that gym exists no matter what. Whether I go there or I don't go there, the gym is always there. There's other people going to the gym. There's other things happening at the gym. That's what it seems like to me. But in the sim world, for example, your sim would also perceive the gym that way. Your sim, if they had a mind, would think, oh, there's always people in the gym. Just I go there sometimes. But that's not what's happening. You as the player of the game, right? Like the gym is always there and the gym is always going to look the same, but it doesn't exist until you go there, until you think, oh, I need to send my sim to the gym. And then they go there and then the gym like materializes out of the source code. Does that analogy make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's that there's rules to our reality. Like your sim can't walk through walls. Well, sometimes they do. There's glitches in the game. So, I think you could rewrite the code and have them do that. But your sim has rules to its game. But at the same time, your sim can have anything they want. They can have any career they want. They can have any amount of money they want. They can live any reality they want. There are rules to the game. But we are smarter than that. So because we have conscious minds and the Sims don't, this is where we separate ourselves a little bit from, the dying in the pool when you pull out the ladder. Like we have conscious minds and we can rewrite code. We can be the creator or the co-creator in our lives with the source code because we are the controllers. I don't think we live in a reality where like we're a sim and someone else is controlling us.
Yeah, right. Like the evil genius theory or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, or maybe that evil genius, maybe someone has developed what we're doing, to a point where we can rewrite our own code. And maybe we created a whole new world of virtual reality and video games that's based upon what we're living and we just accidentally created it. So maybe it's going to grow into they have their own consciousness. I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, I think
that's a whole nother thing.
I think it's interesting that a lot of material out there, like I'm a huge fan of Dolores Cannon and her material on doing past life regressions.
Oh, I want to ask you about that. I've never heard of her, but yeah, I'm curious what you think about like past lives, ghosts, or anything like that.
For sure. Oh my God, this could be okay. Anyways.
So do we need to do a part two? That's just about that.
I think so. That's a whole nother ballgame. But yeah, so Dolores Cannon was a like quantum healer, and she did a lot of past life regressions, talking to people's subconscious to figure out, what are your problems? What are you holding in there? Let's fish them out so we can help you in your daily life. She didn't mean to talk to people's past lives per se. She started out just talking to people's subconscious like a hypnotist, but then she realized a lot of these people would say like wild and crazy stuff. And she's like, okay, it can't be a coincidence that I had all these patients all over the country that don't know each other that talk about like returning home to this ball of light energy and, these energy beings giving directions, whatever. So regardless of whatever you believe on that, I don't know why they would do that either, unless there was some element of truth to it. So one thing that comes up in her material a lot is explaining why we are here. That's a question that she often asks her patients. Why are we here? Why are we here? And one running theme that basically everyone says is we are part of source. There is source, and then it created us, and we are it. We are just parts of it, and we are here to learn, and we are here to experience things, and we are here to, create karma and then grow out of it and, climb up the whole ladder. And we are here to enlighten our consciousness so that we learn everything. That's powerful in her material specifically, but that's also in like a lot of, spiritual texts and cultures and stuff. And isn't that so interesting that isn't that what AI is? Isn't that what artificial intelligence is? It's literally just creating a ton of stuff so it can learn from itself and it can keep going through different experiences and all kinds of experiences so it can keep learning and get better and know more. Like that's saying the same exact thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've thought about this for years. Stephen Hawking said something about that many years ago about computer viruses and that just we had created a life form that was in our own image, essentially. So we were like creators as well, but maybe we're not. Maybe we're still God, the God in us creating. Anyway, yeah, it's a whole thing. That's really cool. I want to look into her because I've always just thought and this is sort of a dumbed down version of, what you're saying about these imprints on electrons or quantum particles is that, perhaps when a child is like, young and they remember things from the Civil War or something like that, I always thought, well, cells have memory. So perhaps they just picked up some of those cells and they're able to remember those things or something, or they're in their brain or something like that. I mean, does that resonate with you at all? Isn't that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many. That's what's fun about this. That's why it's so much fun. Yeah. There's so many ideas to contemplate and it could be anything. I mean, in those types of cases, like children who claim they have memories of past lives or whatever, I think they do. I think they are part of source and their soul has memories of previous lives. And when they reincarnate on this earth, they remember that and it's part of them. I also separately think there's other cases of children who can tap into the fabric of reality, of the universal mind, of creation source, of all that is, and get information. Like when children know who their grandpa is that they've never met, who died years before they were born, and stories like that. Like, okay, why would the child know that? And there's too many of these stories for all of them to be made up by crazy people. There's just too many out there. And I think kids can tap into that as well. And I think you're totally right. And that's exactly what we're saying. They're connecting to the 0 point field. They're connecting to all of the information at all time. The electrons within them are so much more open and receptive to that type of stuff that the information can travel much easier to their minds, to their bodies, and they can say it and they don't have as many blocks and inhibitions as adults.
I think you kind of answered my next question because you said something about universal mind. And I think by that you mean that information system that they're all tapped into, like every electron, every, quantum particle is tapped into. Is that what you mean when you say universal mind?
Yeah, I think the 0 point field is an explanation for the universal mind, the collective consciousness, the, source energy, this pool of okay, so we can tap in, we can get this information, we get these downloads. Like the 0 point field is that because it holds all information of all of the universe of all time within it.
Yeah. Do you do any psychedelics?
I do not.
Have you ever? You have never had? You are?
No.
I wonder what your experience would be like.
I know. I think about it sometimes and I'm like, I'm interested and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'd have the exact same experiences. I feel like
you're already there.
Yeah. I feel like I would just be like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, this is what happens in my brain all the time. This feels no different.
What if you found out something totally new though?
I know. I do want to try one day for sure.
Let's talk about for a second, all these people talk about being in the Matrix right now. What do you think of that when you hear that?
Yeah. So I actually just rewatched all the Matrix movies last month because I was like,
I'm a fan.
I need to remember what are the answers in these movies. And so in relation to that movie specifically, or that series of movies, the way they talk about the Matrix, there's so many truths. That movie was so ahead of its time.
It's like pretty much my favorite movie of all time. I mean, I love it.
Yeah. I literally was taking notes. I would pause the movie and write oh my God, this is so true. I'm like, this is allowed to be a movie that's just out there for everyone to watch. I'm like, this is accurate. But I think what the movie, I don't want to say gets wrong, but more what they Hollywood eyes, I guess, what they just make movie parts are I I don't know. I don't think we're like plugged into pods and like all that kind of stuff.
Right. I don't either.
In that sense, I don't think there's the real us in the real reality and then like a computer generated one that we think is true. I think we are computer code and our reality is computer code. Like we're the sim in the sim world. Like we're not actually a human who thinks we're a sim the way that movie portrays. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then I think but otherwise, I think in the Matrix, in terms of how that movie portrays it, because I think when people say the Matrix, they all mean like different stuff. Like I think other people just kind of mean the rat race, to put it as least freaky as possible.
I think maybe they mean like break out of our confined thinking, of like not being able to control our reality or whatever it is.
Right, for sure. I think that we are not necessarily in like, and like if there's an evil person who programmed a reality that we are trapped in and we need to like physically break out. But I do think there are ideals and stories and cultural beliefs that are perpetuated that we need to break out from. Mm-hmm. But I think we perpetuate those ourselves. Like, I don't think maybe there's definitely evil forces, but I don't think there's like one evil guy who like did all this the way, there's movie villains and stuff like that.
I did an episode with East Forest. He's a musician. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I'll have to send it to you because it's mind blowing. But he just talks about the nature of God and how if God is everything, that means evil too. That means literally everything. And I was like, serial killers? And he's like, everything. Like everything. So, there is it's like the same thing you were saying earlier about, judging poor and rich. It's like, it's all just an option, basically. And the universe being neutral as to where things fall. Like everything's an option. We've been created to experience ourselves, or for God to experience God's self or source self. And anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but what does this bring up for you?
Yeah. Okay. So in Malcolm Gladwell's book, I think it's Outliers, but I kind of like get all his books mixed up because
it's easy to do
in my head all the time. Yeah. But I think it was Outliers. And he said a statistic like about 30% or over 30% of US presidents have at least one dead parent. And that's a high amount, even for like the 1800s. Like it's rare that many children have at least one or two dead parents. And his conclusion was not to mean like, oh, I hope my parents die. So like, that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not something we would wish on other people. That being said, that event, like that's one of the worst events that could ever happen to a child, their parents dying. That would be something that would be so, so, so devastating. And I think the message here is like, but it's just a neutral event. It's a powerful event. There's a lot of energy with it. It's powerful. It seems bad. And you as you, like you have all the power. You have all the responsibility. You are source. You are God within you. And you get to choose, are you going to rise above and become a president, like become, the best to your ability? Or are you going to fall? Because another statistic is like a huge portion of people with parents dying also have a statistically higher rate of falling victim to substance abuse or other self-harm in some way. And this powerful event is either going to make you or break you. This powerful event that happens to you when you're so young, you have the choice, consciously or unconsciously, whatever path you get to take, to say, man, that sucks so bad and I can't break out. And unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people, understandably. And then other people say, well, I guess I have nothing to lose now. I have that I already hit my rock bottom. So it's only up from here. And then those people go on to do so incredibly great things that we could never see before. So while the original event was bad from our perception, at the end of the day, it was just an event. And we get to use these events in our lives to make or break us.
It's just an event. Oof. That's good. That's really good. It's just an event. What are you going to do with it? Are your parents around still?
Yes.
What do they think of everything that you do? I mean, it sounds like they're kind of on board with it. No,
they think I'm crazy.
They do.
I mean, my mom will get on board more with like the mindset stuff. Like she'll be like, yeah, okay, you can manifest your reality. And she is like, always kind of thought she was like psychic. So she's like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Or like, oh, I was thinking about that person and they called. So she'll relate on like that level. But I just saw my dad recently and he's like, so do you really believe the universe is a hologram, or do you just like say that stuff online? I'm like, no, I really believe it. Like it's real. And he's like, he's very much not on board.
What do you mean when you say the universe is a hologram?
Yeah, I was like, oh man, this is a whole nother topic.
I know. As it came out of your mouth, you're like, here we go. She's going to ask about this.
Yeah. Well, the universe is a hologram. So we discussed everything's electrons, basically. Right. Mm-hmm. But electrons, as we also discussed, the structure of an atom is like, as taught in textbooks and stuff, is an electron cloud. These electrons are like jumping around this tiny little nucleus. And when you have a thing like a table, there's, billions of atoms with billions of these electron clouds jumping everywhere. So one other phrase you could talk about that, you could also call that an oscillating energy field.
Okay.
Which it is. It's just, an energy field. And a hologram, like as we know it, those blue things that pop up from tables in sci-fi movies, like that, a hologram is created by perceiving the difference between oscillating energy fields. So it's like oscillating energy fields interacting is how a hologram is created, just to keep it short and like surface level. And I know that's already
I only somewhat understand that.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you look at the structure of our universe, and if you look at principles of holography, which I won't even like get too much into, it all kinds of matches up. It all kind of lines up because I don't know.
Wait, if you look at principles of holography and what and reality, or quote unquote reality,
they match up. Our universe. Yes. This is not something most scientists are necessarily on board with, but
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Tell me anyway.
Says the same stuff. So yeah, a hologram works by perceiving the difference between energy fields, basically. And when you look at the structure of our universe, that's what it is. Different energy fields. So yeah.
So a hologram is really a hologram within a hologram?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we might need to dive deeper into that a different day.
Maybe so. Yeah. I guess if we have all this much power to choose, why are we all? I mean, I'm living in this universe. I'm guessing you are too. I'm living in this current world where there's COVID and, unrest and all that. So how do you make sense of that? Do you go like, if I'm really choosing this, why is this going on? Are we collectively choosing? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think our universe is accelerating, and us as humans, the vibration is raising. I think so. And to raise your vibration, you have to experience more stuff. Like we kind of talked about, the whole purpose of us being here, being part of source energy, is to experience stuff. And if we all just only experienced, fluffy little clouds and rainbows and bunnies, and we all just only experienced only good stuff, then there would be no point, because no one would be learning anything. Like the source wouldn't be learning anything of itself. So that would not even make sense for anything we just said. 2, you can only, everything we perceive can only be perceived based on its opposite. You can't know anything if there's no other thing to know, which is also an important aspect of holograms. They can only be perceived by the difference. They can't ever be a standalone thing. It's always something compared to something else. And that is how we view our world. There is only night because there is day. If there was only night, we can't even perceive that. And we can't even think of something without an opposite, because that just can't, we just can't do that. And so I think we need to go through I don't want to say like negative because everything is just neutral, but there might be things we like less than other things. But that's because there's two events that we get to put next to each other and say, oh man, that one's actually really bad. That one's bad and I hate it. You get to say, okay, so that means this one's good and I like it. So how do we get more of this? And you get to learn and you get to problem solve. And while something like COVID and all this stuff going on, it's not that you chose it. It's not that you manifested the pandemic for all of the world and, you did this. It's like, okay, here's an event. Now I get to choose how I react with that. Do I learn? Do I overcome it? Like the dead parents, do I rise above? Who am I in this situation? This is happening. And what do I think about this? What do I think about this? What do I think about this? And it's a learning game for all of us. And I think that we can only grow and evolve when things come out of our shadow and things that, we don't want to see, we don't want to know. We need to see it though. And we need to know and we need to experience so that we can overcome it and grow bigger and better than ever before.
No, I totally agree. Have you ever read or listened to Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh? You might like it.
Should I?
It talks a lot about all this kind of stuff, and just, I thought it was incredible. It's pretty long. I listened to it, but it's pretty incredible. So I tend to listen to it come at it from that aspect because, I took science in school and I wasn't that good at it. And I was like, my monkey brain isn't quite grasping this, damn it. I want to so bad, but I can't quite always grasp it. But I like that. I completely resonate with that, that we have to know the other to know what we want. I think Abraham Hicks talks about that a lot. Like, okay, we're finding this out to know what we do want. And so what do you want? What do you want? What do you want in your life? What are you manifesting? What's the big thing that you're seeing for you?
For sure. So I have been running my business for like 4 years or something like that. And
which is what? Tell me exactly what your business is.
Yeah, sure. So I am a coach. Right now, I am a manifesting scientist coach. So I help people my main program is called Unlock the Universe. And I help people use science to unlock their universe and get rid of blocks and solidify the belief that anything is possible for you. You get to have it all. Here's why and how and all that stuff. And so I help my clients unlock their universe. And I didn't always do that though. Before in my business, I was coaching, I was blogging, but I was talking more about personal finance. And that was how I started. And then I grew into talking more about like investing, like growing money. And then I talked more about running a business. And then I talk more about mindset. And I feel like I've always been evolving. And that whole journey, I honored myself where I was at, but I kind of always knew like, is this my thing? Like, am I really that person who's like save money on groceries? Like, is that my whole life and whole identity? Like, is that what I want to talk about forever and ever? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's interesting me now. So I'm just going to make a post about it. And that was kind of how I ran my business. And I'm like, but now I feel like the past few years has been like a personal journey, like discovering, okay, how do I like figuring out the rules of the game almost. And now I feel like I'm here and I'm like, okay, like manifesting scientist, quantum physics and manifestation. This is it. This is exciting. There's so much that we don't know and can never know. Like we can't really ever know what dark energy and dark matter is. So this is something that I'll be talking about for a long, long time. And as new and new science gets discovered and these dots get to be connected. And I'm like, okay, so this is who I am. And I'm ready to step full on into that. And like we talked about the end of last year, I faced a lot of like, all these people on the internet, a lot of them hate it. Who am I in the face of that? Am I willing to fight for this? Am I going to keep going with this or am I going to back down? Is this me or not? And I'm like, yep, it's me. Okay. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to dive full in. I want to grow bigger in this. My dream for like the whole future is literally to have my own labs where I do my own experiments. And I think one problem that scientists just can't get on board with the woo-woo stuff, the spiritual stuff, they call it woo-woo, but I don't like that term, but whatever. Like they can't get on board because there's not rigorous experiments that prove it over and over and over. And in some ways we may never be able to, but that's what I want to keep doing. I want to have my own labs. I want to keep trying to prove these as much as possible. So that would be where I would absolutely love to go.
Well, there's no sense in not doing it just because you think it's not going to work. I mean, that's not science. You do it to see if it does, to see what does work. And, also to bring your own words and philosophy back to you, like maybe you needed to have that experience to experience what you really want. You had to have that duality. You had to have that negative in order to know, oh yeah, this is me.
1,000%. Yes. Yep. Even when I'm like so frustrated, I can feel my growth so much because I'm like, well, also this is happening to me for a reason. And like, I know that, and I can separate. I mean, this is a whole part of the spiritual journey, like separating me, the real me, whatever that is, from the emotions I'm experiencing.
Yes.
It doesn't mean anything about me. It's just feedback. Oh, this is feedback. That's interesting. I don't know why I need it, but I need it. So I'll just roll with it and everything will work out.
What are some of your like concrete daily habits and practices?
Yeah, for sure. So I wake up every day. I meditate every single day. I don't always.
What's your meditation like?
Yeah, I was about to dive in. I was like, do people even care? I'm like, my meditation is just with me. I will sometimes use crystals. I'll sometimes put on like, a specific like frequency music, but overall it's just with me. I don't typically do guided meditations. I like the feeling of just connecting. I like the feeling of like the pure potentiality. I like connecting to all that is and just feeling like I'm part of this vast universe and it's all working for me. I like guided meditations when I know my mind is just everywhere and I need help, focusing. But overall, I just like exploring. I feel like my main thing, I don't know, I just like exploring and seeing what is. So my meditation is typically 20 minutes. If I want to go beyond that, I will. But I found that if I wake up and say, I'm going to meditate for 2 hours, I'll like never be able to do that. So 20 minutes, sometimes with crystals, sometimes with music, but mostly just with like my own self. I used to journal every single day, but I stopped doing that because I like journaling and I love it. And one day I will go back to it, but I stopped doing it for now because I feel like I'm in a phase where I just want to see what is. I don't want to try to control. And I felt like in the past when I was journaling, and this is not, I will go back to it, nothing bad about journaling, but the way it was working for me was I felt like I kept trying to control and I kept trying to like make certain things happen. And right now I'm in a period where I just want to allow. I just want to set my general intention like, hey, I want to know more about the universe. I want my business to grow. I want to transform lives. And let's just see what happens every single day. And so that's what I do. And then in the morning, I'll typically do work. So for me, that means read a lot or watch lectures of people on YouTube or some other, like open source material and learn about all of the science. The stuff I talk about, I feel like I filter out 99% of the material. Like there's so much that I go through that I'm just like, oh, no one will get that. Or even I don't get that, or who cares? That's stupid. And I'm like, okay, I just need to focus on like what proves manifestation. How, like, what is the science that proves that? And then the afternoon is typically when I create like more content.
Okay. And then what about at night?
At night, I hang out with my husband. I don't have a routine.
Oh, good. You get a lot of sleep? Do you get a lot of sleep?
A lot of sleep.
You do?
Too much sleep. My husband likes to go to bed at 9 p.m. every single night. And I'm like, I'm pretty much never tired by then, but I don't know. I just do it.
But you do it anyway. Well, that's good. I like that your meditation happened organically, that you really came into that just in a way where you were just self-taught. I think that that's really beautiful because for me, it's been like a work in progress. It was not something that came naturally or I tapped into naturally. So that's really lovely because I'm trying to instill it in my children right now. And so I've been experimenting with how to approach that. So that's very lovely. Well, I feel like we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, but is there anything that we didn't bring up that you really wanted to talk about today? Or is there anything that you want to like speak to or reiterate before we do wrap up?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the first thing I would say, I feel like I just described the worst daily routine of all time.
No, you did not. Reading and
like,
reading and meditating are huge. Huge.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking of like the old me. I used to do like all these things to like, and then I began releasing them. I began shedding them to be like just more open. I'm like, okay, but it means I do like pretty much nothing specifically. I just am open all the time, all day. And then the message, I feel like there's a million topics that I feel like I'd be excited to dive into. The message I would want to leave everyone with is, your belief in the thing is the only thing that matters. These ideas, the science, the spirituality, whatever side you're into is important, and stay on that journey if you have good intentions, and that's awesome. And your belief in the thing is the only thing that matters for manifesting. That's like the bottom line. Whatever you need to believe that you are worthy of having money, or you are worthy of, your dream business, or you're worthy of leaving your job, or you're worthy of finding your dream partner, you're worthy of losing the weight, you are worthy, and you are. And whatever you need to believe, that is the work you need to do. And then you get to have that. And that's the whole game.
I think that's what's so beautiful about what you do, though, because it helps take away any of those little doubts. Like, it's easy to say, okay, I'm going to believe in my worthiness, but then, I can experience these little doubts, and I think that's causing conflict in what I'm drawing to me or putting out. And so understanding that it is a neutral playing field with all these, quantum particles, that you can just decide, it's not judging, then you're able to go, okay, well, this is for, like you were saying, the way you believe in it, the way you go, oh, well, this is actually true. This makes sense. And so I can just do this,
Yeah, exactly. But this is the language which helped me believe all of this was possible. And because I believed it, now I am living a life that I truly love. And before, when I used to doubt everything, I was not living a life I truly love. And it's really as simple as that.
Do you think living a life you truly love means doing what lights you up and being able to make money at it? Is it as pretty simple as that? Or
it is as simple as that. I think our whole lives are just a string of moments together. And the more of those moments that you would give a 10 out of 10 rating, the better life you're living.
Yes. Is that what you would define happiness as? Because you say on my way to happiness. But I mean, if you're on your way, you'd be in it. You want to be in it right now.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about changing that name, and I was
really?
Like, yeah, I'm like, I like it because I'm always going to be on a journey, but I don't feel like how I did when I first created my blog. Like,
well, it makes it sounds a tiny bit elusive, right? Like, I'm on my way there. Like, when will I reach it? Right. Rather than be like, I'm in it right now.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I would have changed the sentiment to like, oh, I decided a long time ago, I'm happy no matter what. I don't know how to put that.
It'll come to you.
Yeah.
And
right.
What do you have behind you? I noticed these on your TikTok too. Are those framed affirmations?
Yes, framed affirmations.
Do you change them out, or do you have like set ones that you have up there all the time?
I change them out. So like the middle one, like my husband and I are going on our honeymoon soon. And it's like, he will not return to work after the honeymoon. So after the honeymoon, whether he does or does not return to work, that one will get changed out.
Wow.
Some are timely, but some are more like my work is of the highest service. Like that one's always there because that one's always true. But yeah, I changed them out to what I feel like I need to work on and what lights me up and what makes me excited when I see them.
Ooh, I like that. I want one here. I want one behind me. I'm gonna have to think on that. So I like that. Just to have it always at your back too. Like it's got your back. Universe has your back.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is I love it.
I love it too. Well, Kelsey, I loved talking to you. Thank you for, answering all my questions, because I know that there are probably things that seem can seem kind of remedial. But I think it's just important to understand the foundations and the basics of all that you talk about. And I love all your messages so much. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. And thank you for asking questions. I love hearing what is going through everyone else's mind because I only know my mind, which is so crazy. No, I need your questions to help sort out what's going on up here. So I love it.
It's not crazy. Your mind is not crazy. Your mind is inquisitive and fascinating and beautiful. And I am very impressed by it. You're gorgeous inside and out. And I think that what you're doing is so timely. I do agree that we are in a period right now of like all this is going on. And I think, us all being connected and able to communicate like on this podcast now more than ever is a huge part of that, like how can we all help but up level? And when we're living in this time of communication, right?
So huge. Yeah. I think in this time specifically, one lesson we will learn or we won't, but you are a huge piece of helping us learn. The good lesson is understanding and understanding where are we all coming from, just understanding who we are, who humans are. I think a lot of things going on right now are just, if you talk about this, you're right. And if you say this, you're wrong and you're canceled and you're shut down forever. And I think that we need to focus more on the understanding piece. Well, why would someone be saying that? Well, let's have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And so that's awesome that this whole show is about having those conversations that are going to raise our vibration and help us understand each other more.
And allowing growth, and allowing others to change and grow, because that is what life is. It's change and growth. And you starting your TikTok and just saying what you felt and knowing that it's probably going to change. It's probably going to grow. And I think anybody listening, if they can take that too and know that like, just start and like, you're going to change and you're going to grow. And that's one of the great things about it. At least it has been for me as well. Just like jumping in and going, it doesn't have to be perfect right now. It just do something, do something that lights you up. Yes.
If you feel lit up by the thing, other people will too. And even if you don't say it perfectly or give it out in the most perfect way, like people will feel that energy. Somehow you will connect to the people who need to hear that message.
Yes. Yes. I mean, sometimes I get disheartened on that because I'm like, how long does it take? I mean, like, I want my message to go to millions of people, but it just takes time, and loving the road to happiness is a big part of it. Love that road. Yeah. Love that. Be happy on the road to happiness. Be happy on the way to
everything happens for a reason. And I feel that way about social media, like all the time, like, hello, this is my best video ever. Why didn't it go viral? But then I look back on the videos I thought that about 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, thank God that did not go viral. Everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah. Good. Stay in that trust mode. Cause good. That's good. That's good for me too. Cause I'll like do that. I just started TikTok in August. So, but I'm really enjoying it. And I just try to stay in that place of like, do this because you like it. Do this because you like it. Just do it because you enjoy it. Are you enjoying it? Check in. If you're not, okay, why not? Are you getting too hung up on numbers? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, well, I just love you so much. Thank you so much. And all that you're putting out there, and everyone can find you at On My Way to Happiness. And I'm sorry, I didn't just say that right, did I? It's onmywaytohappiness.com. I did say that right. And on Instagram, I believe it has underscore.
There's some underscores, but if you type in On My Way to Happiness,
you'll turn up.
It'll come up Kelsey Manifesting Scientist, and I'm that one.
That's you. And we'll have it in the show notes as well. So people can just look in the show notes and tap through and find your website and find you on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube as well. So, which is On My Way to Happiness. And I just want to say a huge thank you. So thank you for spending the time today. I would love to have you back. If you have something that you just have to talk about, I'm on board, because I'm ready to have my mind blown by all the science all the time.
Oh my gosh, perfect. You will definitely be hearing from me too often. You will regret saying that. You'll be like, actually, I don't want to know anything about that topic.
No, I want to know. I know I do. So I loved it all. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Huge thanks to Kelsey for being here today. Remember that you can find her at On My Way to Happiness on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and her website, onmywaytohappiness.com. Kelsey Yeager is her name, and I absolutely love that conversation so much. So thanks again. And thank you for being here. I would love to know your thoughts about that conversation or any questions that you have. So please let me know anytime. You can hit me on Instagram at Real Amy Edwards, or comment on my TikTok at The Magic Babe, or you can simply email amy@amyedwards.com. I would love to hear from you and know, what came up for you in that conversation. And I really had to think about what I wanted to bring to the affirmation today. And I think that one of the most beautiful things that we can do is really dive into the trust that we're being shown what we need to see at all times. So I think this week's affirmation, if you want to write it down, have a little something to turn to in any moment, is I am being shown what I need to see in every moment. And just really deeply trusting that you're being shown what you need to see in every moment. So maybe you needed to see that there is scientific backing for all the stuff that we talk about. It's not just magic, or maybe magic is contained in science. Maybe. But you are being shown this for a reason. You're seeing this right now. So you know what's out there. You know what the options are. You know it's a neutral world, and all you have to do is choose. You're just being shown this. Yep. In every moment, being shown exactly what you need to see. I love that. I love that. And I love living in that space of trust, because I experienced doubt too. And listening to her and being able to lean into this connectedness that is a fact, a scientific fact, is really beautiful, because you can have those intangible spiritual experiences, but then where are you, right? Then you go, did I imagine that? No, I really felt it. And actually, you really did, because all these particles are floating in and out and they're all connected. So we are actually experiencing that. And it's okay to just have to trust, right? So anyway, thank you again to Kelsey. Thank you for being here. Remember that all you have to do is leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and you'll be entered to win 60 Days Away from Amanda Nelson. And so we have this coming out. I'm so excited. Please do. And we will announce the winner in just a matter of days. So thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to do that, and follow Amanda too at Exploring Amanda. And of course, you can order these two as gifts. They make great gifts if you need, I don't know, a springtime gift for someone, a little birthday something, have them on hand to give away. That's always nice too. Anyway, I love you so much. Remember that you can connect with me anytime on any of the socials, Magic Babe on TikTok, Real Amy Edwards on Instagram or Twitter, and of course, the Amy Edwards Show on Facebook. And you can sign up for the newsletter too at amyedwards.com. And I'm just ecstatic to keep learning. And I hope you are too. So share it with a friend if you feel called. If anybody came up for you and you thought of them, please share it with them, because that is how the good things spread, right? What are you putting out there? It's all energy. All right. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Until next time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this show, please rate and review. It totally matters. And I encourage you to spread the love too, and share this episode with a friend if you feel called.